The crash state is something I talk about often. It's a name I gave what was happening to me when I had no idea what was happening to me. It felt like I was crashing. I used to sometimes explain it as it felt like I had these drunk episodes, whereas sometimes I would be sober and I would see that my relationship was just really good and I was actually happy and I loved him. There were episodes where I did not understand what was happening in my head or in my body, and it was all just so overwhelming, and there was so much going on. It was very confusing and very scary. And so I started calling that the crash state. And now looking back, I think I use that more as the time that my fearful avoidant attachment style was at its worst. Like the symptoms came out the most. I was um confused the most, and it was just all very overwhelming. So I think I kind of use it interchangeably, which doesn't make it much clearer, but for now, I want to use the the explanations of that it's an episode where you're kind of like drunk. Um, you just can't seem to calm down. You can't seem to get yourself to a place where you want to be, and that can happen quite a lot and very close together. So that's why I sometimes also talk about the crash state as being just the few years that I was um yeah, suffering almost, that I was struggling with my fearful avoidant attachment style the most. So, 7 signs that you are in the crash state as a fearful avoidant is you are in fight or flight mode. You are just in survival mode. Your body is so on and hyper vigilant and looking for threats, and you don't really know why or what's happening because there is no tiger in the bushes, but it feels like there is. You just have this complete inability to relax. So especially in these episodes, it's like you have to do something. There's just so much going on in your body, and it feels like you either have to fight or flight or fawn or freeze to survive, but you don't know where the threat is coming from, which makes it even more complicated and makes it even scarier in a way because you don't know what you're fighting, who you're fighting, and where it's coming from. So that fight or flight state and that inability to relax is definitely a sign that you are in the crash state of the fearful avoidant attachment style. And then the second one is emotional flashbacks. And I I think it will help so much to know what this is because these were some of the most confusing things I experienced. That I would be doing fine one moment, and then the next moment something would happen and I would feel so many different emotions and just get completely thrown back in time. That's what I now know, to when I was a child. So I would feel powerless, I would feel helpless, I would feel so unworthy, I would feel so much shame and guilt, and I wouldn't know where it came from. And so because I didn't understand it, I projected it on my relationship, and I thought this relationship isn't right. He is the one that is making me feel all these things. But they were emotional flashbacks, just like you can have visual flashbacks. All of a sudden you see images flashing before your eyes. You can have emotional flashbacks, and that's emotions taking over your body at any given moment when they are triggered. And this is also something that you don't know where it comes from. You don't know what triggered it. Maybe when you are further along in your healing process, you kind of start to see, oh wait, this is when I have those emotional flashbacks. But the thing that was so hard about it, or is so hard about it, is the fact that it feels so real in the moment, whereas imagery, um, it is more clear that it is a memory. It is more clear that that was something in the past. And I'm not saying that that's any less worse than emotional flashbacks, because you also have the feelings that come with that, and that's very scary too. But when you just solely have emotional flashbacks, it's really hard to discern whether this is something from the past or something that is happening in the present moment. And what I've learned looking back on it is, I think 95% of the times that I had a lot going on, emotion wise or feelings wise, and it was just overwhelming and scary, 95% of the time it was an emotional flashback. So it was something triggered, um, the trauma from when I was a child. Because when I healed more and more, these emotional flashbacks pretty much disappeared to the point where now they're pretty much non-existent. So yeah, the emotional flashbacks and the constantly getting triggered and constantly kind of feeling like that helpless, powerless child, and all of the other negative feelings, that you had when you were a child, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy, not feeling seen, not feeling heard, and feeling like your needs aren't met. So needs aren't met. So um, yeah, almost feeling like you're going to die. Um, all of those things can just come up at any given moment, which is very scary. And when you're in the crash state, that can happen a lot, several times a day sometimes. The third sign that you are in a crash state is that you have pretty much no possibility for emotional regulation. Um, Back when I was in a crash state, I had no idea what emotional regulation was. If you would have said that term, I would have gave you a blank stare. So it means that you are able to calm yourself down, essentially, which not it does not mean that you suppress your emotions. It just means that you are able to work through them and process them. And in a secure attachment, you learn that by co-regulation. So you learn that by co-regulating with your parent. And in the insecure attachment styles, um, that is not something that is modeled to you, um, in a way that you learn how to regulate your own emotions. So that is something you now have to learn as an adult, to regulate your own emotions. And there are so many ways to do that. But when you're in the crash state, so when there's pretty much no possibility for emotional regulation, uh, the more subtle things like meditation probably won't work. I'm saying subtle, that doesn't mean that meditation isn't powerful. It's super powerful, but it's also very hard when there's like a war and a storm going on in your body, to just sit with it. And so that's when I use the emotional freedom technique. Anytime I was just overwhelmed with emotions and feelings and I just did not know how to handle that, I would start tapping. If you have no idea what the emotional freedom technique is, I have videos on that. Please check them out. They're probably linked above here or there. um, and that really helped me to help my body process the emotions, because without that tool, I would have no idea how to feel slightly remotely okay. So when you feel like you have no possibility for emotional regulation, it's overtaking you, it's engulfing you, that is a sign that you are in the crash state. Then the fourth sign is that you are fully in your protection and coping mechanisms without being aware of them, really. So especially with the fearful avoidant attachment style, there are so many different protection mechanisms and coping mechanisms. Protection from rejection, protection from abandonment, from threat, from being physically threatened or in danger. Just so many things that your brilliant brain and body and fear brain come up with to make sure that what happened when you were younger never happens again. And so these are things like having doubts about your relationship, so you don't have to give yourself fully to the relationship, so you can't make mistakes, can't hurt others, they can't hurt you, they can't reject you because you never really knew whether they were the one anyway. So that's a protection mechanism. And a coping mechanism is working really hard, proving your worth. It can be addiction, it can be any type or form of addiction. And so being fully in those protection and coping mechanisms without being aware of what's happening in the moment is a sign that you are in the crash state of the fearful avoidant attachment style. So that means the crash state, I guess, really means that your attachment style is triggered to the max. So it is just triggered constantly and to its maximum capacity. And that happens more when you don't understand the attachment style. When you start understanding it, so when you watch these videos, it really helps to understand what is going on, which will definitely help you move out of that crash state, the almost the worst state of the fearful avoidant attachment style, and make room for healing. So what you're doing right now, watching this video, watching multiple videos, it helps so much to get out of this crash state. You are already healing by watching these videos, which is why I make them for you, because that's what I want for you, to be able to have a little bit more peace and clarity, and move out of that crash state, so you are capable and capable of healing. You have more room for healing. Then the fifth sign is you are giving a lot of power to intrusive and impulsive thoughts, and that happen often. So you have intrusive thoughts and impulsive thoughts, probably. Not every single fearful avoidant has them, but I think a lot have them. So intrusive thoughts are really, those are really horrible thoughts. They are thoughts of you harming other people, of doing really, really bad things. And all of this can be explained also. I'll write that down as a video subject to why you have intrusive thoughts. So it's not that you're broken or that your brain is broken or that you're a horrible person. It's actually that you have that belief that you're a horrible person, and that's why your brain will provide you with intrusive thoughts. Yeah, I will explain more in a different video. But that's intrusive thoughts. And impulsive thoughts is like, what if I throw this down the stairs? Just not being able to completely trust yourself. That's kind of the fear that underlies that. But the difference is, a lot of people have at least impulsive thoughts, but sometimes also intrusive thoughts, even securely attached people. When I learned this, I was like, really? But they don't give any power to them. They have that thought and they're like, that was a weird thought. And they just continue on with their day. Whereas the fearful avoidant is like, why did I think that? What does that mean? What are the consequences? What does that say about me? So you give a lot of power and attention to that thought, and therefore more thoughts like that come up. So giving a lot of power to those thoughts is a sign that you are in the crash state of the fearful avoidant attachment style. And then the sixth sign is ruminating and obsessing. Ruminating means just going in circles in your head, thinking and thinking and thinking and trying to find a solution for something, feeling like you're working towards a solution and that never really happening. And obsessing means you are just completely engulfed by this thing that you are trying to see whether it is true or not, or whether it is right or not. So that means, is this relationship right? Do I really love them? And then checking your feelings and checking your compatibility. And so it's very much all in your head and just a constant train that you can't really stop. That is also a sign of the crash state of the fearful avoidant. And then the seventh sign is getting triggered constantly and taking it seriously. So I think this may even be one of the more important signs, because if you're in a relationship, that can be when the crash state of the fearful avoidant attachment style comes out, and that is because you get triggered constantly. So when you're single, it feels freer and easier because you don't get triggered as much. And when you're not very aware of the triggers and you haven't healed yet, it's those triggers can be constant. You can constantly be triggered in your beliefs. I have different videos about the triggers too. We'll link those too. But that can just be like a constant thing that you encounter. Anything your partner says or does can be a trigger, even if all of that is actually quite loving. It can still be a trigger. So when you're getting triggered constantly, that and you take it seriously, like you don't see it as, oh, whoa, I'm getting triggered, but you think, oh, my partner did this, I feel this way because my partner said something, so it's my partner's fault. Like you're taking it seriously, and you're deflecting and blaming your partner and really believing the stories that your fear brain is telling you. That's also a sign that you're still in the crash state of the fearful avoidant. And this is what I noticed the most when I started healing, is that I got triggered way less and less and less. And that actually went quite fast because I started recognizing the triggers and then obsessively figuring out what that trigger was and where it came from. The whole obsessive thing can also be a gift when it's not fueled by fear, but by purpose. But I figured out so many triggers, and as soon as I knew what that was, and then I would heal it, I would tap on it and I would just heal that trigger. And so I got triggered way and way less, and it happened so often that Aryan would do something, my then boyfriend, now husband, would do something or say something, and I would be like, like a week ago I would be triggered, I would just close off completely, and now I'm totally fine. It was such a magical thing to notice that I could heal quite quickly, actually, and I could do something about this like minefield. It felt like a minefield every day when I woke up. It felt like a minefield to go through the day and know that I could be triggered in any moment. So yeah, that brought a lot of relief, that I knew how to release those triggers. And I did a lot of that through the emotional freedom technique and just being very radically honest with myself where that trigger came from, what trauma I came from, um, and then tapped on it, sometimes for a few minutes and sometimes for a few hours. So that really, 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 really helped to move out of the crash state. And because of that, I could heal even more. So it's kind of like the healing is almost like a flying wheel. The moment you start it, it becomes easier and easier because you get more and more space, mental clarity, emotional space to heal more and more. And so it can actually go quite quickly if you know what to heal exactly and what to tap on. And you can heal, you can definitely heal on your own. I have so much belief and faith in the wisdom of your body. Your body knows what to do, your body knows what to heal. So you can absolutely do this yourself. The emotional freedom technique is not a hard technique to learn. So you can tap and just tap and tap and do this and try this on your own, and you will heal more and more and more. But if you want to have help, if you want somebody to guide you step by step and you don't want to figure this all out, my online program is here, Healed and Happy. I don't want you to feel like you have to do that. I make these videos with so much love, and I will forever. So you don't need that, you don't have to do that. But if you just want to dive into this and you just want to do this step by step and go to the roots of the fearful avoidant attachment style and really feel yourself healing quickly, the program is here. So check that link in the description below for more information. And as always, I am so incredibly happy you are here, and let me know in the comments below whether you are in the crash state right now or whether you recognize it but you know you've already moved out of it. I always want to know. I really wish you so much peace, peace through all of this, and yeah, I'm happy you are here, and I will see you in the next one.